Hey guys, yeah, my name is Ezekiel. I'm here to just introduce you to Spring Modulith. So I have a full course on Spring Modulith on Udemy, but I'll be introducing you to some of the concepts you need to actually understand in this video. If it spans over several videos, it will probably be a playlist which you can just go through to see exactly how things work. I have a project actually set up here. As you can see, there's a project that I'm actually working on. So I went ahead to just define some entities and lay the background work, so we don't have to go through all these uh, all these steps. I'll have this checked into a GitHub repository, which you can find in the comment section or in the link. So you can actually just go in case you need to actually have the projects with you. All right. So what I'll be doing beginning from this video is to explain things to you, how things basically work, and the uh, and show you how or everything actually interfaces with each other. So I'll be explaining everything I've defined in here. And like I mentioned once, like I mentioned before, I have a full course on Udemy. The link would actually be found. You can find the link in the comment section, or you find it in the link section. So just kindly click and go avail yourself the full course video. It contains several things that you can actually it contains basically everything you should I say virtually everything that Spring Modulith has to offer. So you can see how to make work with it and integrate it into your project. All right, without further ado, let's get into it. Okay. Probably starting from the next video, I'll probably take this camera. I'll take my face off, so you don't have to get for those that get distracted. I just wanted to use this first video to at least for you guys to know exactly who you're interacting with, and then be able to see exactly and to explain things in a much more uh better light. All right, so let's get into it. Okay, so we basically will be having three entities we'll be working with. We have the passport entity, we have the passport category, then we have the person category. So the way the project is supposed to work is that you have a person register. Say you actually go to an embassy or you go to the immigration service, right? Or one of your outlets, you register or you do that online. Once you actually register, the person registers. The person gets to register with the first name, the last name, the email, and the age. Let's just keep this simple. So once the person registers, the person then calls the passport category to select one of the available categories. So the way we typically have it in the UI face is that you probably have an endpoint to call the category, then the category listed, then the person will pick the category he or she actually wants. Right? This is just a demo, so we just try to envisage things, even though we're just working from the back end alone. So that we'll be able to do. But this time around, what we'll do is we would basically just create a DTO that will just receive the requests, and we'll see how things move on from there. Then once that picks the category, then we'll send an event all the way to the passport service, and that is actually processed. That's basically how Spring Modulith works. Spring Modulith works in terms of events rather than managing wiring services into each other, because it actually favors strong decoupling. So that is the whole idea behind this. So that is exactly what we're trying to achieve in this video. So we'll just see exactly how it goes through. Let me actually go through some of the files I also worked on. So this is the category. I just have the name. So the category will basically have the name. Let's say standard passport or a diplomatic or official. Then the duration in years, right? I've gone ahead to bootstrap the passport category because I think that should already be available in the system. So I have a standard, which should go for 5 years. We have a diplomatic, which should go for 2 years, and we have the official, which should go for 8 years, right? Let's just look at it from that scenario, right? Then let's look at the passport itself. So the passport entity itself will contain the ID. That's the ID of the person that registered. That's this person that registered. Then uh, will actually generate the passport number. This will be doing using a faker library that will just generate a random number for us that would actually look like a passport number. Then the category we actually pick, which is the passport category, will then be inserted in here. Then the issue date will probably be today's date. Will be today's date. Then uh, then yeah. So the duration in years we actually have in the passport categories plus today's date will then be the expiry date to be using in will then be the expiry date to be using over here. All right. So I want us to look at it from that scenario. Okay. I think that said, let's look at the other components I wired in. All right. So since I'm actually using a data script to actually load in the initial passport category, so I have to do two things: defer the initialization, then the DDL auto. That's to actually create my entities automatically. I'll set this to always now. Once I've loaded in the data, I'll set it. I'll set it to never, so it doesn't actually go up and it doesn't actually go in anymore. So let's then explore the dependencies, right? Let's explore the dependencies. Okay, so I'm using Spring Boot Starter JPA. This is not necessary, but because I'm actually using the entity over here, and I want things to be done automatically for me, so I'm using JPA. We'll be interfacing with REST with the web, so this would actually helps us to do that. Then the Modulith library itself comes. So this is the core, and because we are in JPA, we also have the Modulith Starter JPA. I'll be using Postgres. I'll be using Docker. I'll be using Docker to actually bootstrap the Postgres. Then we also have the Spring Boot Docker Compose. So the Spring Boot Docker Compose, what it does for you is that once you actually set up a project from scratch, it creates a compose file for you. You have a compose file. So this compose file, what it avails you is that so you don't need to actually add in the connection properties to your YAML file. So if you see this, I don't have the connection properties here. The compose file is actually used for you automatically. The good thing is if you actually check the test project also over here, look at this path, look at the resources folder. I added a property to say it should to use my Docker Compose. The Docker Compose should be used in test. So which means I'm not skipping in test. So that way I don't have to wire in the properties also in here. So that actually works. Then if we want to move to production, we probably want to then remove that property, then wire in the properties, wire in this configuration, I mean to say, then wire in the properties directly. I explained this in detail in the course on Udemy, so you can just go over there and check it out and see exactly how this actually works. I explained the detail of how to use Docker Compose. We started off how to actually explain a lot of things. It's a really amazing course. I want you guys to basically check it out. Okay, I think I've explained everything that needs to be explained here. Okay, all right. So I brought up my Docker desktop. So what I would do is let me start up the project. So the good thing about Docker Compose, the Spring Boot Starter Docker Compose, once you start the application starts up, it brings up your Docker. Once you actually shut down the application, it actually kills the connection automatically for you. So with this, I think we've said this to always, right? Okay, so let's start the application. As you can see, I don't have any instance running, but let's see what will happen now once the application comes up. Let's see what will happen. So this is trying to come up. All right. So this is coming up. All right. So if you're starting off, I need to mention this is very key. If you're starting off initially and you're using Docker Compose, you would see your container pulling, right? This will be pulling automatically. So, but because I've already pulled, that is why it shows that it's already available. So it says it's already created. But if it's not available, it will take time to actually pull the Postgres container. Then it will set things up. So if we come back here, as you can see, this has already changed. It has pulled, it has started out the application. So with that done, let's explore the database. Let's explore the database. So this is the database over here. So I'll just refresh. So if I refresh, just refresh. You can see the tables are in. Let's explore this a bit. The passport category, basically. So this is the data that I wired in that I showed earlier in this data script file. So we have the person entity, we have the passport entity. So you can see, let's just explore this. So you have this. Then we have the events publication. I explained this in detail in the course. I'll just give a quick overview. So the event publication, since Spring Modulith does not rather favors you communicating via events. Think about it. What if the event fails? What if an exception is thrown? What would happen? Would the event fail? Would that transaction not go forward? So there's an event publication that saves every event. Either it is successful or not successful, it keeps it. So if it's not successful, you can retry later. You can actually create some form of So there are two APIs that are provided, which is called the incomplete event publication and the complete event publication, which you can use to interact with the event within this table, and probably we fire the event for those that are not completed. I explained this in detail, and I actually showed a dynamic way we can actually do that to actually get things actually done in the course. But we might not have all the time to actually talk about this now. But however, this is just a quick demo for us to see the wonders of Spring Modulith and know exactly how to actually make it work. All right. So we've actually said a lot. All right, actually said a lot. So this has been done. We've been able to do this. So we started off the application successfully. We've actually done this part. We've actually created a person, entity. So I believe you guys have a good knowledge of how this works right now. So what I would do, so basically this video is already 10 minutes, 10 minutes, so to say, long. So let's just see how far we go in some couple of minutes, then we'll come back in a later video. Like I mentioned, this might probably be a playlist. We'll come back in a couple of videos to actually see how this actually proceeds from here. So what do we do next? So the next thing we do next is we have to ensure we follow some set of rules, right? If you don't follow some set of rules, the application would not even build, right? We would have errors actually popping up everywhere saying, hey, you are actually violating some of the rule. A good typical instance is if you're calling a service within a service, let's say this service which you are going to do, we're going to call this service within this person service. If we do that without declaring it explicitly that, hey, I want this guy to be able to access this, you get errors saying this is not allowed. And to actually help us facilitate those rules, so we'll go to the tests and we'll actually create integration tests for these three services. So first off, we have this guy. First off, we have that guy. So for the base project, we actually set up some tests to actually get things. We actually set up some tests to actually ensure that we have things actually wired up. Yeah. So I actually have my notes that I'm actually saying the order in which I actually get things done. All right. So we'll have things like the application module. So we have something called application modules. Application modules. Application modules. Then dot off. Then we bring in the base application here. This base application class, which is the Modulith demo application. Yeah. Then we verify. So this ensures that we verify that all modules are actually compliant to the rules. Now, unlike the traditional Spring Boot application, we don't use Spring Boot test. So there is alias that we use, which is the application module test that actually comprises of just of the Spring Boot test and some other components. Let's look at it. All right, application module test. Application module test. Yeah. So bring this. So let's explore this. So if you actually bring in the application module test, so at application module test, sorry, at application module test, say it's an annotation. So once you actually explore this, as you can see, we have the Spring Boot test in. Then we actually extended some other things that actually favor the event publisher. Then we have the auto configuration for the module test configuration. So the tests are module. So we have all this, and it also favors the test container. So we have this already wired in. So this is should be used in favor in placement for the Spring Boot test. All right, so let's create a test for each of all these guys. So I'll just bootstrap it from here. All right, so I'll just create tests. So I'll call this a passport integration test. Passport integration test. It doesn't need anything else. All right, so the same way we actually wire things in. So I'll use the application module test. Then I'll just create a method just to verify, right? So if I to create a test method, I'll just call it verify. So just verify. All right, so this is sufficient enough to test that this is compliant, because it's going to check. I'll show you guys in the details in a bit actually. All right, let's also create for passport category. So let's create a test. Yeah. And for those who are curious, I'm actually using IntelliJ Ultimate. IntelliJ Ultimate, but you can actually use Eclipse to actually achieve the same thing, right? Or STS Suite. You can use any of it to achieve the same. But I actually use I prefer using IntelliJ Ultimate. All right, so We also have a test class. So let's just bring in verify, right? Verify. All right. So and for the last bit, let's also create this guy. All right. So call this integration. I think I want to be consistent, so I'll rename the format we just did. So this will be at application module test. Then create the test method, which is verify. Verify. All right. All right. So we've been able to do this. So let's make this so we'll have this already. So this is category. Let's rename this to application. Let's name to integration also. So it has to be consistent. Some prefer to use IT, which is integration test, but I just prefer to write everything in full. So there's no right or wrong, just a matter of preference, basically. All right. So with this done, let's run this test. Let's see. Let's run this entire test. Let's see if you're breaking things already. So this is a good way to actually start. So once we start adding new components, new details to the application, we would be able to know if things are actually still following the rules or we started breaking the rules. So for now, we can see the category pass, the integration pass, the monolith, and the base. See everything pass, so we are good. You might think we've not done anything, but the moment we start wiring things up, you would see exactly how things start playing out, and things will just naturally start breaking. So until we follow the rules or the guidelines, we would see how it works. Now, let's just explore one of them. So if you explore one of the tests, you would see it says we don't have any direct dependency. We don't have any direct dependency. What would then happen is, but it also shows us some of the bin we have, the repository and the service. So what would then happen is the moment you start wiring things up, because it's supposed to favor strong decoupling. Now you only get to bring things in or wire servicing if it is very necessary, right? If it is very necessary. And for that, what you would have done probably in the real world is, what if you then want to take the module that is dependent on to a microservice? Or I mean, you then have to swap, rather than the wiring, and you then swap it to probably an API call to actually call that other microservice to actually get things done. So I'll try to explain things as we go along the way, and some of the benefits you should actually put in mind. Okay. So I think we've done something good here. So so we have the DTO, we have the repository, right? Nobody should have access to this. Nobody should have access to the repository. So I would make the repository, I'll remove the public access modifier for this. I'll do the same for this guy, and I'll do the same for this guy. So automatically within the passport category, I should not be able to access this repository, So that's one of the core functions. That's one of the core details of Spring Modulith. If you want to communicate via events. You don't have to wire in the repositories at all. For the case we are going to use the passport category here, what we'll be doing in detail is that we'll be wiring things in Bobby, exposing it. And the moment we expose the service from this part, we have to explicitly tell the person domain that, hey, I'm expecting dependency from passport category. And we tell the passport category, hey, release, expose this particular part of your implementation. Once we do that, the test become happy. If we don't do that, it will actually have more issues actually coming up. All right, so let's test this. Let's move ahead. Let's see exactly how this was. So we moved this part. So the next thing we want to do is so we have the person, we have this. So let's create the person controller, because that's basically will be the entry point. That'll be the entry point. So person controller. So person controller. So this will be a REST controller. At REST controller, I'll be using. I have Lombok wired in, so I'll be using at required as constructor. Then I'll also be using as request mapping, just to detail what we need. Request mapping. So I will call this person. All right. So I think we've gotten to a good milestone here. All right. So now that we have that done, let's create what we need. So we want the person to register. So we'll just be looking at just one singular endpoint. We want the person to register. So I'll try to follow what's the standard. So we have post mapping. Then I probably want to call this register. All right. So I'll call this registered. So there's a public. Let's just return exactly what we're passing. Person DTO, person DTO. Yeah, so we have the person DTO. We'll explore that in a second. Person DTO, then the person DTO. So a request body. All right. Okay. So probably should just make it within a. We should just put it within a response entity, right? The response entity, then person DTO. Okay. So let's check this out. So the person DTO. So what would it be receiving? So it will be receiving. We would ensure that it's received. I'm using a record for those that I know for this is Java 21. So this can probably be somewhat related to if you're using Lombok and using a data, right? So that's why I'm using Lombok. So this will be the first name, the last name, then let's take the email, then let's take the age, let's take the age, then finally let's take the passport category. Remember, as I explained earlier, we'll basically have an endpoint that is exposed to the UI. Then you actually have the UI call that endpoint, and the endpoint to probably display the categories. The user picks the category, and everything will be bundled up and sent as a request to the person. That's this person controller. So that's exactly what I'm trying to achieve here. So I just call this category. Yeah. So basically this is what would be wiring it. So just want to just format it a little bit so it just looks a bit nicer. Okay. Right. So I think this is okay. So yeah. So we have the person category. Then I think we need to create a service, right? We need to create a service. So let's create a person service, right? A person service. Just label this as service. Label this as a service. Then I'll also be using the acquired as constructor. Then the private final, then person repository. Yeah, I think that works. Okay. What else do we need? Then, so I'm receiving this. So then I would be passing in this guy. So we would call this register user. So let's do a public person DTO. Then I just call it register person. Yeah. So we just have this. Okay. All right. So the person will be expecting us to actually create the person. The person will be expecting us to create. So we'll be save a person detail, and will be returning to us. Let's call it saved or registered person. Registered person. All right. So let's build this guy. What does the person actually need? So if we see, so I'm going to do what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this. I'll open this. So I've split this so we'll be able to see what you're wiring in. Then the person itself. So let's create the instance of the person. Then you have the person dot set. We don't set the ID. Remember, this will be auto-generated. Since you're using the identity on our entity, so it will be auto-generated. So actually use the first name, set the first name, person. Sorry, that'll be person. The set last name, then person dot set the age, then person dot set email. All right. I think that's basically it, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's confirm. Yeah, they're just 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is auto generated. All right. So with this done, so let's just bring it in. So this person DTO dot get first name. Then sorry, person DTO. I was surprised. This shouldn't have. It should just be first name because it's yeah. All right. So person DTO dot last name. Then person DTO dot age. Then person DTO dot email. Person DTO dot email. All right. So and then we'll pass this in here. So to help me, I'll just probably create a private converter here. So I'll be converting from person to person DTO, right? So I'll be converting from person to person DTO. So I'll be turning person DTO. Yeah. Should we go that route? Let me think a bit. I don't think we need to go there since we'll just be returning the same details back once it has been persisted. Oh yeah, we need to go there because we need to actually probably return the ID of the person. Though that's not the ideal thing we would have done, but I just wanted to show you guys exactly how we do that, and we can basically just return the ID, right? So do person DTO. Let's make it a private method. Private. Since it's a private method, I don't need to. So person DTO, then map. Let's call it map. Don't call it person. Passing the person. Then we'll just do return new person DTO. So this will then be taken in the parameters, right? So what are the parameters? The first one is first name. I'm saying person dot get first name. The next one is person dot get last name. Then person dot get email. Then person dot get age. Person dot get age. Get age. Then lastly, we're passing in the category. Oh, did I miss something? So first name, let's just do this. Let me just introspect. So first name, last name, email, age, then category. So for now, let's just place in null. We'll come to fill this in later on. So or rather, I'll just take in the string category here. So the string category. So taking the string category. All right. So just passing this category here. So this would complete what we'd actually need. Thinking about it again, I think we should actually add the ID. So we show the ID that is actually generated. Even though ideally you're not supposed to return the ID to your user, right? The ID is not supposed to be returned. So I think this would work, right? This would work. This would work. So I think this is fine. So let's leave this as it is. So we have this guy. So we would return the map, turn the map, then we'll just return the registered person. So this registered person, then we'll be expecting a category. Let's just pass in null for now. So once we wire in this guy. All right. So with this done, let's check this out. Let me return null for now. Return null. Return null. Then let's wire in the service. Private person service. All right. So let's run the test again. Let's be sure we've not broken anything. This is how we would get things done to ensure that we are still right on track. All right. Okay. So we're doing this. We're actually setting this up. Right. So this is coming up. This is coming up. This is coming up. This is coming up. Okay. It's still fine. Still fine. Still fine. And it's still fine. Okay. So far so good. We're still on track, right? We're still on track. So I've been able to create this. So next bit is so run the integration test to see how things are. So I think we want to actually we've actually removed this guy. We've removed all the public interfaces. So now the next step is we want to wire in this entity. We need the person, this passport entity, because we want to be able to get the categories that are listed. So remember, the person in this person DTO is passing on the category, this category. Now we need to ensure that the category is available, right? So we need to get in that person and the passport category service. So what we will do, we will create the service that we want to expose, which is this. I've already created a detail here, just as some detail. We've passed in the category, this passport category, passport category repository, I mean to say. So we would need an object to be returning back. And if we check this out, this just contains the name and duration in years. Let me remove this. Name and duration in years. So we'll be creating a passport category. So I'll call this, let's call this service. You would see the reason in a while, right? You see the reason why I'm doing this just a little bit. So let's call it expose service. Expose service. So sub package I can use service. Expose service. So right here, I'm going to create DTO. So I'll also make it a record. So the DTO is exposed. Then within this guy, we're just exposing the name. Exposing the name and the duration in years. I'll just call it duration here. The duration in years. Okay, this works. So we're just exposing this. This is what we are exposing. So let's keep that in mind. So apparently this guy should now be happy. Okay. So returning the option now. So I've gone ahead to create, if you check this, we'll find the passport category by name, right? The passport category by name. So I'm returning an option now because it could exist. It's possible it doesn't exist. So coming back in here, so what I would do, okay, so coming back in here, I also want to create a helper method that actually translates the passport category into the passport category detail, because what we want to expose is the passport category detail and not the passport itself. So we need to actually keep that in mind, right? We need to keep that in mind to know exactly what we're exposing and what we are not exposing. So let's create a util method. Do I want to expose that? So let's just create it here. Then we'll decide if we want to move into the util method or not. So I have the public uh passports DTO. No, I don't want this autocomplete. Passport category DTO. Why is this just? I'll also call this map DTO. I'll call this map DTO. Then I'll pass in the passport category, right? So what I'll then do, I'll return a new passport category DTO. It takes in then the passport category. I just call it category. It's too long. We call it category, then category dot name. Get name, then the category dot duration in years. All right, so this satisfies our use case. All right, so now that since we're getting this from here, so let's just wire this in, right? So I'll just do a return, then passport category dot, we get this passing the name because we'll be searching by the name. Then since it's an optional, we want to map. Then I pick the category, then category, then I'll say map this DTO, then get the passing the category. So once you pass in the category, then we want to return it. We want to actually do this, or else let's throw. If we get it, fine. If we don't get it, we'll pass in a null, right? So that shows this guy does not exist, right? Okay, I'm returning an option now. I think I should just return the object as it is, right? The object as it is. So this works. So this is saying we should use a method, we should use a method reference. So let's just do that. All right. So we also have this. Now, I would pick this guy. So since I'm not exposing this, let's also remove the public part. I'll pick this I'll pick this category service, come to this place, and then wire it in. So I have the private final this. Now let's see what happens here. We've wired this in. Let's now run this person. Let's run this person integration test. Let's see what happens. Now that we've wired this in, will this work? Let's find out. Let's find out. And let's see. This is going through. This is going through. All right. You see, this is breaking. And why is it breaking? If we were to check properly, it says it construct this acquired bin. This bin is acquired, but it could not be found. It's trying to find it, but it could not be found. So it's telling us, check your configuration. You need to actually consider defining a bin within your configuration because it doesn't exist. Let's see, do we get extra details here? Let's see. Okay, the same thing. All right. So expect at least one bin qualifies as auto-wire candidate dependency annotation. So what he's basically complaining of is here, you are trying to bring in a bin from another module when it's not supported. That's the idea. You're trying to wire things in, but it's not supported. So how exactly do you want to achieve this? This is not allowed. Now, to actually get things done on so we need to actually expose this. We need to expose this sub package. And to expose the sub package, we use something called the named interface. This is one of the core annotations that's provided in Monolith, named interface, and we would tell also the person domain that, hey, we are also expecting to receive the passport category service. So this would expose everything within this expose service. So if we add any DTO, anything else to expose it, so that way everything will be fine. So it means this service should also be in here because this is what I want to expose. So I want it exposed in here. And if you look at this, this is now complaining, right? Because it doesn't know where this is. Because remember, I marked it, I moved the public part. So I would also place this here. But mind you, even though I place this here, it is still not accessible. This is not accessible from the outside, right? It's not accessible from the outside. So this is fine. It's not accessible from the outside. So when I'm exposing this, all it's basically seeing is just this passport category, right? All it's saying is just this passport category. All right. I'll just pause the video here. I'll be back in a minute, so we can just continue from where we stopped. All right. So let's proceed. So now we basically see this. This has been done. Now we ran the test last time and we saw that this is actually failing. So let's proceed to get things done. Let's see exactly how we actually resolve this. So to resolve this, within this part, we would actually introduce a package.info. And the package.info, having introduced it, we have to tell explicitly what we are actually exposing, right? What we are actually exposing. And to actually do that, we use what we call a named interface, like I mentioned earlier. We use what we call a named interface. So also, we also need to create a package.info file. You're saying, hey, we are expecting things from the passport category. And how do we do that? I come in here and I say, okay, I want the org dot spring dot modulith, then an application module. I want this application module wired, then allowed dependencies. The allowed dependencies, one of the allowed dependencies, or the one I'm actually expecting right now, is from the passport category. Passport category, that is passport category module in sub package. So remember, this is very key. Sub package. So that's a column, sub package, then exposed service. Yeah. So doing this, I've been able to tell the person domain or the person module that I am expecting dependency from this passport module and sub package expose service. So it will expose everything within this to us. However, only what is accessible. We know the passport category is not accessible. So that actually works, right? So we can actually do that. Another way we could go about this is if you say we don't want to actually move this, we could still bring these two back. So we could actually do this. I just want to show us this part. Bring this back. So we place this here. Okay, let's do this. So another way we could do this is place this here, right? Or basically, let's test this out first, and I'll show you the alternative route. So we can actually move things around to actually expose it also. So that way we don't have to have this passport category within this. So we could probably create a service, create another service. We want to call it expose service. Then we'll have this actually respond to this or wire it in. So that's one bit. All right. So now we've been able to create this. So let's move in here. So in this part now, we need to expose the other bits that I mentioned earlier. And that is the part where we will then be able to see how it actually wires in directly. Okay, just a minute. All right, guys. Thank you. I'm posting the video so that there's no breakage, so it'll just be a clean transition, right? I just wanted to show that. All right. So for this guy, for the expose service, then we'll be bringing in the named interface. The named interface. Now, why are we using named interface? Named interface is for sub packages. I need to repeat that. Named interface is for sub packages. So that's exactly what we're trying to bring in. Not this. That's the Modulith. The Modulith, then named interface, right? The named interface. What is the name, right? What is the name of the sub package we are exposing? It's called exposed service. So this part, exposed service, that is the name we're trying to expose. All right. So now that we've actually catered for these two, what is the next thing? Oh, we need to tell our person test, hey guy, I'm actually expecting dependency also from the passport category. So how to do that? There's something called the bootstrap. So you have the bootstrap mode, which you can, I think this is the default. This is the default here, the standalone. But you can then wire in all dependencies or direct. So I just want to do direct dependencies. So direct dependencies. So let's run this again. Remember, we've placed in this file here. This file actually tells us we are actually expecting dependency from the passport category sub package expose service, right? Then we went into the expose service saying, hey, this is a named interface. We want to expose this for anyone that is interested in reading from here. And that's exactly what we did. And as you can see, this works good, right? This works good. So in the next video, we'll be continuing with this to see how we can proceed up until we send the events to the passport entity and be able to receive it, the passport module, I mean to say the passport module, and see how things actually play out. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.